Call of Duty. It's a franchise. That's it. I don't have anything else to say about it. So you can read by the title, I played every single Call of Duty game and ranked them. I think I did anyway. It's been a long ass time since I did a ranking video, and it did okay, it did alright, so I thought, why not just do it again, but for a different series? And unfortunately, I decided for that series to be Call of Duty. Yeah, not sure why I did this in all honesty, was just bored. I'm going to have to give a bit of disclaimer here. The only game that I really can't rank at all is the game that Black Ops Declassified game that they released on the PSP. I did play it via emulation. It's just, I don't think it makes sense to review that game, but who knows. Now, I'm also going to establish how I'm going to approach these games in this video. These will not be in-depth reviews. They will be as brief as I can make it, while also getting my overall point across, and honestly, just what I feel like talking about. I am not going to attempt to break down all or even most of the mechanics in each game. It just doesn't really feel like something I want to do, and it doesn't feel necessary. Nor am I going to break down the stories. Just gonna talk about whatever I want to talk about, whether it's good or bad. And I also gotta establish that this is all just a personal opinion. I'm not speaking from any objectivity, just from what I personally found enjoyable. Some guy actually gave me shit for even suggesting that and saying that in my Need for Speed video, because apparently I'm scared of being held for my opinions. But yeah, this isn't something to be taken very serious. I'm just doing it for fun. If you happen to disagree with any of my talking points, which I guarantee you will, just leave your list in the comments and I'll probably read it. Also, I will say this before anyone else can, I'm not very good at these games anymore. At best, I'm just decent, but for the most part, I am pretty ass. So yes, I do in fact have a skill issue. Am I coping with this revelation? Absolutely. And with that aside, make sure to grab a snack or something, because this is going to be a long ass ride. So why don't we just get into this Call of Duty ranking, shall we?
Okay.
So I made a mistake here, and I played the original trilogy last out of all of them. I kind of just pushed these off for as long as I could, and then a sale happened, and then I was just like, why not? For the first Call of Duty, I could only play it on PC. Call of Duty 2, I had the option to play on PC or Xbox. And 3, I could only play on Xbox. So I played 2 and 3 on Xbox. And unfortunately, I was only able to play the campaign for all 3 of these games. I attempted to play multiplayer, but there was just nobody on the game, which didn't surprise me in the slightest. For this segment, I'm just going to very briefly talk about all of them in one segment, however, because there isn't much for me to say, and because I played them just enough to get a general feel and idea of the game, but not enough to where I can have like an in-depth, educated opinion on these games, if that makes sense. Call of Duty 1 released on October 29th of 2003. And playing it for the first time was pretty cool, seeing how this ginormous franchise started. It's adorable. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of this campaign. Definitely has something to do with the fact that I played these games last. My first issue with this game, how the hell did it show up like this in the recording? The game itself is honestly pretty solid. It definitely is showing its age a bit, but I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing per se. There isn't a whole lot that stood out to me that was very memorable, outside of maybe the on-rails car section, which I found very irritating, and the level on the battleship where you fought alongside the wonderful Captain Price. Seriously, this is the only character that is memorable out of this game, and he just stands out from everyone else. This is 100% because of the mustache. From the gameplay side of things, it plays just like all the other games, go figure, except health doesn't regenerate. Instead, you gotta find health packs to heal up, kind of like Halo CE. It's fine enough. I guess it could make the game a bit harder, but overall, I really didn't find myself enjoying the campaign too much. It's not that I dislike it by any means, it's just I wasn't the most entertained by it, but I can respect it for being the beginning of this franchise. So I'm just gonna put this game in C tier just based off of what I played. Call of Duty 2 released on October 25th of 2005, and I honestly enjoyed this game a little bit more than the first and the third game out of the trilogy. I don't know, I really enjoyed those opening missions with the Soviets, and fighting alongside Captain Price again was pretty cool as well. The only other noticeable difference here for me is that they replaced the need for health packs for regenerating health, which definitely makes the game easier. However, I didn't enjoy the game a whole lot more. It was more than the first game and the third game, but not a whole lot more. Just a few gameplay changes, with only really one noticeable one that was even a decent sized change, but it was fun for me. Maybe it was because of what I was playing on, I'm not sure. But the thing is, I'm still not entirely crazy about this game either. I more so respect it than I do enjoy it. So I will be putting COD 2 at the top of C tier above the first game. Call of Duty 3 released on November 7th of 2006. Captain Price isn't in this game, so it's automatically bad. Jokes aside, I really got bored of this game. It just looked boring, it felt boring. The whole thing just felt like it was all blending together. Which, for the first one, sure, I can excuse it, but it didn't feel like that in the first game. At least from what I played. This was the third game, and yeah, I made the mistake of playing all three of these games back to back. I really should stop doing that. I haven't learned since the Need for Speed video, so that might have had something to do with it. But truthfully, I was just not enjoying my time with this game at all. I was bored within the first hour. Although I will say, this guy resetting his idle animation every 5 seconds, and whatever the hell this was, it did make me laugh, so take that for what you will. It looks better than the first two games, so I guess credit for that. I don't know, this one just felt like I was forcing myself to play it. Not because I wanted to, however, I will say. There's far worse campaigns in the series, so this one isn't too bad. I'm going to rank it in the bottom of C tier behind the first game. But also, please acknowledge the fact that I wasn't able to experience the whole games. Multiplayer, if I was able to play for any of these three games, might even raise the ranking for these games. But as it stands, I was only able to play campaign. And trust me, I tried, but I didn't want to leave these games out, and I felt like they were the most important ones, but I do apologize if you expected more. And yeah, let's just move on to the game that would follow COD 3.
What the hell kind of name is SOAP?
Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Released back in November 5th of 2007, which, by the way, 2007 was such a banger year for games. Growing up with this roster must have been nuts. Let me state the obvious here. This game is iconic. Everything about it is, let's be real. Captain Price, what kind of name is Soap? M16 with stopping power, Juggernaut perk. Now I played the remaster because I didn't feel like buying the original game, which released alongside Infinite Warfare back in 2016, which was a hilarious decision. But I do remember having the original on PS3 back in the day, my day that is, which was like 2014, but still. I remember it being modded to shit. I remember I bought it at a GameStop for like $10, and the first game I played, it was some sort of infected or some dumb shit like that. It was so weird. I remember a guy flying around. It was confusing. Now, the game itself, I mean, it's COD 4. What more should I really say? It changed not only the franchise drastically, but the FPS genre as a whole. This game even got a series like Medal of Honor, a predominantly World War II franchise, to make two modernish FPS games not too long after its release. Then it died. Respawn, you're testing my patience. The campaign is really good. All Gillied Up is one of the most iconic missions in COD history, and for good reason. It's easily the best mission in the whole game. However, I believe that the first mission on the ship is a close second. I mean, guys, we witnessed a nuke in this game. There's not much more I can say other than its peak. The multiplayer also being pretty good as well. I never really played it that much, and honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it has a good map selection. There isn't many maps that I would even take out of the game, because even the worst ones I don't think are that bad. Crossfire is kind of ass though, I won't lie. I would definitely remove that one. But it has some of the most iconic maps which can be argued for being the best in the series, like Crash, Vacant, Countdown. I enjoyed sniping on this game. I'm not very good at it, but it was fun. The game feels a bit more balanced compared to other games that we'd get in later years, at least to an extent. Outside of the M16 with an ACOG sight and stopping power, there wasn't anything that stood out to me as unreasonably overpowered. All the perks seemed fine, besides the obvious standouts being stopping power and Juggernaut. Some of the SMGs honestly just sucked so much ass in my opinion, like the Scorpion, but that gun sucks in every game it's in, so it's not a shocker. I really liked the factions that differentiated on each map in the game, each one having their own announcer and theme. This is a feature that would appear in this so-called golden era of COD, which is really neat to have here. It adds to the experience in my opinion. The music is also really good. The menu theme is probably the best one. It just goes hard. The rest of the music though is just as good, but honestly the menu music's the best. Without Call of Duty 4, we wouldn't really be where we are now in the series, for better or for worse. And for that reason, I have nothing but respect for this game. However, I don't enjoy this game the most compared to a lot of other people. And I know this will be a controversial take, possibly. But I'm going to place it in B tier. So let's move on to Call of Duty World at War.
My name is Victor Resno.
On to World at War, released back on November 11th of 2008. Essentially, it is just COD 4, but not modern. One thing I noticed when I booted up the game for the first time in years was how eerie the menu was. It was quite unsettling for a COD game, and it caught me by surprise because I do not remember it being like this at all, but I like it. So the campaign, it's a good campaign. I really enjoy the eerie tone the game goes for. It feels fitting. I mean, after all, it takes place during World War II of all things. So yeah, I would hope so. But it feels much darker compared to any other COD campaign. Literally and figuratively. Seriously, there's no color in this game at all. That's not to say the other games aren't dark at all. I mean, COD 4, again, literally had us watching a nuke. It's just something about it, like, appears more grim than other COD games. The music, I feel, is what gives it that feeling, mixed in with the colorless look to the game. One thing I really like about World at War is that it has you playing as the Americans fighting against the Japanese and then the Russians fighting against the Nazis. Which one do I prefer? It's easily the Russians. The music is much better. That's not to say the other side isn't good, because it very much is. But come on, it's Reznov, one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise. He is great here. The ending as well, peak cinema. Now the multiplayer. I see this as basically just a World War II version of COD 4. Is it good? Yeah, but honestly, I enjoy it less than COD 4's multiplayer. Then again, I kept getting kicked out every other game because it tried to throw me into a match that had a DLC map that I refused to pay for. So maybe that's why. The maps for the most part are pretty good too. However, for me, they aren't nearly as memorable. Castle's really the only one that I remember. I love Castle. The weapons all feel fine, at least for me. None of them really seemed overpowered. There really is only one gun that I remember like being like disgusting, and it was the MP40 with an extended mag. However, I preferred the PPSH. That gun just sounds like a monster. It's just horrifying listening to its gunfire. The announcers are also entertaining as all hell. The fact that Reznov is the announcer for the Red Army, though, makes him my favorite faction to play as by far. I am a very biased Reznov fan, what can I say? There is one other mode to talk about in this game that was firstly introduced here. Nazi zombies. I'm gonna just leave a huge disclaimer, because I am aware I will sound stupid talking about these games later on. I'm not the biggest zombies guy. I am a casual when it comes to zombies. I don't really do the Easter eggs. I don't do any of the stuff the hardcore players do. What I do, however, is online gambling. I tend to normally just do whatever, buy whatever doors I can, buy any gun that I feel like buying, and I'll try to, at the very least, turn the power on and stuff, but just to forewarn every zombies player that I am not the one to look to for zombie critiques. But I like World at War zombies. I will also add that I only played Nocturne and Toten. I played Shino Numa and Verrucht on BO3 Dirties. However, I only think I played at one point, but I'm not going to act like I fully remember it. But nonetheless, I enjoyed Nocturne and Toten. This is a very simple map, at least for me. I'm not a good zombies player, so what do I know, right? But it was fun to play. As an overall game, I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. I'm going to place this game in B tier right above COD 4, and we're going to move to Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2 released back on November 10th of 2009. What is highly regarded as the best or one of the best COD games, and I can partially agree with that. Let's start with the campaign here. It's really good. I think I prefer this one over COD 4's campaign. It is almost like playing an action movie. Captain Price is as good of a character as ever. I really liked Ghost when I was younger, though the older I gotten, the more I realized Ghost is really just a nothing character here. Hell, he has the same VA as Gash from COD 4, essentially the same character. But Makarov, probably one of the best villains in the entirety of the franchise. That's not any new information, but he's just so evil. On top of that, this campaign has several iconic moments, some being the best in the series, like the snow mission with the snowmobile. Let's not question how Roach is able to hit all these shots. He just has human aimbot, don't we all? No Russian is the most obvious example out of the entire game. I mean, it made it onto the news after all.
A popular new video game actually allows you to be a terrorist and kill people. Take a look.
And of course, the final mission in that game, the ending is so good. The music is generally some of the best in the franchise too. That Hans Zimmer score goes crazy every time, I'm telling you. You could take like every track in this game and it would be a perfect display of how good the soundtrack is, because that's just how good it is in my opinion. Onto the multiplayer, it's pretty good. The map selection is very good. would be almost perfect if only derail didn't exist. The game is very much unbalanced. Like, let's just not lie to ourselves here. This is the most unbalanced COD game still, but in a way that is fun, at least in my opinion, with some exceptions. The announcers in this game are perfect, some of the best in the series, especially the Russian guy. That guy was giving it his all in the booth, and I will forever be grateful for his service. Spec Ops I was never really a huge fan of. Not that I think it's bad by any means, but it's just not my thing. But overall, Modern Warfare 2, the original it's an amazing game, and I'm gonna put it all the way up in A tier. Now with that game covered, let's go on to Black Ops.
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean?
Released back on November 9th of 2010, Call of Duty Black Ops. This was Treyarch's time to bat, and they cooked. They cooked real good. This is some true fine dining right here. This was one of the games that got me into the COD series, and while it's yet again not my #1 favorite game, it's certainly up there. Let's start with the campaign, its peak. Everything about this campaign is so good. Mason, Woods, Hudson, Dragovich, Kravchenko, fucking Reznov returns. This campaign took on a different approach for its story. It still takes place during a war, but during the Cold War of all things. And while it's, again, still your usual war stuff, it also tried tackling things like brainwashing, the assassination of JFK, MK Ultras, all the fun stuff. Every character, and I mean every character in this campaign is good. Every single one of them. All the locations seen in the game, too, are cool as well. They look great. I really love this campaign, at least as I've gotten older, because of all of its story elements, the part that's not directly, like war, you know, I really love the CIA, the brainwashing stuff, and the assassination of JFK stuff that they're trying to tackle here, and trying to recall events that had happened in the past. And of course, it is something different for a Call of Duty game, even for a Treyarch game at the time. One of the highlights for me was most definitely the mission breaking out of the prison. Onto the multiplayer, it's really good. In terms of maps, we got a damn good selection of them, with very little if any maps that I would remove. This game gave us classics like Summit, Firing Range, and of course Nuketown, a map that is legally required to be in every single Black Ops game. It's kind of crazy to me how many of these maps returned in future games. Even a few of the DLC maps made a return at some point, which surprises me. A lot of the weapons are cool. The classified ones as well, like the G11, that is actually probably the most interesting gun to be added into the COD game that is grounded in reality, that is. The FAMAS is my personal favorite. The Enfield is pretty good. I would say at least half the guns are pretty good. Then there's the other half, which is just there. They aren't very good. The progression system is a bit different this time around. So of course you can level up and unlock new weapons, perks, and whatnot, but this time you have to unlock any items with COD points. It's crazy how horrible of a rebrand they have had as of late. This system is fine, I think. You still have to actually level up to be able to even get the privilege to purchase said items. But it gives you a tiny bit of freedom with what you want to unlock. Like, would you rather get a bunch of attachments for the RPK? Not sure why you do that, but hey, you do you. Or maybe you want to buy the next gun you unlock. But the thing is that I think makes it a cool way of unlocking stuff is the wager matches. And as someone with a crippling gambling addiction like me, this is a perfect thing. These wager matches could be something like One in the Chamber, Gun Game, Sticks and Stones, and Sharpshooter, which are the soon-to-be party modes that would become iconic for these Black Ops games. And they're the most enjoyable game modes that have been introduced to this day. The game also introduced custom emblems. You can make them how you wanted. Of course, we all know that feature had led to some questionable creations. Now the zombies, it's pretty good. I mean, come on guys, it lets you play as JFK. That should be a reason enough to play it. We had maps like Call of the Dead, Ascension, Shangri-La. I'm not even a diehard zombies player, but even I know this is a banger. 5 is my favorite map out of the bunch though, simply because of the fact that you can play as JFK. And it totally has nothing to do with this clip.
Sounds like someone's posting cringe.
It's just a meme, Dick. Sit down.
Why is he here? He lost.
Overall, I think Black Ops is a really good game. I'm putting this game in A tier above Modern Warfare 2. So let's move on to Modern Warfare 3.
Oh no, so you didn't shoot you on that bait.
Modern Warfare 3 released on November 8th of 2011. You know, trying to look up anything about these older Modern Warfare games is really irritating. Activision, I'm blaming you for this. So the general opinion on this game, from my understanding, is that it was essentially just a $60 glorified DLC, and I can kind of see it. Graphically, the games do look similar, like really similar. However, for me, I really enjoyed this game just as much, if not more, than Modern Warfare 2. And maybe that's my nostalgia talking because I did play this game first. For the campaign, it's my favorite out of the trilogy. It has, in my opinion, some of the best moments that we've seen in the series. Soap's death, easily one of the most iconic moments in the whole franchise. While it is over the top, I think it is executed very well, especially with Price's reaction, the twist that is revealed alongside it, and what transpires afterwards. The acting here is amazing in my opinion, showing that Price truly cared about Soap, which is something that you would think would be necessary for an emotional scene like this. And of course, the ending of the campaign, Price murdering Makarov in the most over-the-top way, not by a gun, but by wrapping a cord around his neck and pushing through a glass, in, of course, an over-the-top kill, hanging him, putting an end to his reign of terror, and of course, smoking a cigar right after. Moments like this make the campaign what it is for me. Of course, you also have the other stuff that's, well, not as good, but good enough in my opinion, like that one plane mission. It's just so fun. The campaign just feels just as fun as Modern Warfare 2 was for me anyway. It was always one of my favorites growing up, although I guess one small gripe that anyone might have with the game is that it does play too similarly to the first two Modern Warfare games. However, I will say the actual landscapes and backdrops that we see in this game, in my opinion, are the best in the trilogy. Especially that opening mission, goddamn. Now for multiplayer, I think it's as good as Modern Warfare 2. At the very least, it's enjoyable. I do understand the complaints of it just being almost identical in terms of maps. I think they're just as good. My personal favorites though are Hard Hat and Dome, just like most people, but I also like the map Arcaded. In terms of weapons, I like a lot of the ones here too. It does seem like there's more guns that outshine others though, like the MP7, the ACR, the SCAR, and while there were guns like that in Modern Warfare 2, you could use pretty much everything. But most guns in Modern Warfare 3 are also still usable, at least they feel usable, but there are some dog-ass weapons in this game. One of the funniest things to me though is the other day I came home from work and I hopped on Modern Warfare 3, and the first game on, I got on a modded lobby that got me max rank, and then I never got it again. Thanks, man. I don't know who did that, but thanks. The gunplay is just like every game prior. It's pretty good, at least as good as the netcode would allow before crumbling. The overall multiplayer experience, and hell, this could even apply slightly to campaign 2, but it feels like a less bombastic Modern Warfare 2. And in some aspects, that is a good thing, but I still really like the multiplayer. On to Spec Ops. Again, I was never the biggest fan of this mode. It just felt like an extension to the campaign, but less interesting to me personally. But then there was the survival mode, which for me was really fun. Again, not something I played a whole lot, but it was essentially just holding out on a multiplayer map, fighting waves of enemies, and at the end of each wave, you get some sort of currency to buy different weapons and score streaks and whatnot. It was a pretty fun mode and definitely brought me back to the third mode in a Modern Warfare game more than any other non-Treyarch game. I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but honestly the music felt really forgettable to me. I went onto YouTube to find it and listen to it, and genuinely it's not a bad soundtrack, but in comparison to Modern Warfare 2, or Black Ops 1, or World at War, or COD 4, it just wasn't nearly as memorable or entertaining to listen to in my opinion. Maybe it's my nostalgia talking, because I really enjoyed this game just as much as Modern Warfare 2, and I still enjoy it to this day, just as much as I did when I was younger. So I will be placing this game in A tier, however it will be above Modern Warfare 2 and below Black Ops 1. So let's move on to Black Ops 2. S tier. Put it at number 1. You guys should have seen this coming. Released back on November 12th of 2012, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Fun fact, this was the first game I actually got to play during its prime. Somewhat, at least. Pretty sure it was like May of 2013 when I played it. This is no doubt the best COD game to be released in my opinion. Of course, a lot of other people will say COD 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, which are respectable takes. But for me, it's Black Ops 2. For the campaign, it's the best in the entire franchise, which is still shocking to me that you have a campaign as good as Black Ops 1, and yet still completely shattered the expectations that campaign may have given you. The whole thing they do with splitting it between a direct continuation of the Black Ops 1 story, during the 80s, and then a storyline in the year 2025, which is less than half a year away as I'm making this video. Please, Raul Menendez, don't become real. The actual level design I think is really good. I like that each mission has secrets that you can find within, varying in whatever useful items it may give you, like mortars or a better melee. But most importantly, we have the GOAT, Uncle Frank. The cast was absolutely stacked for this campaign too. Michael Rooker as Harper, Sam Worthington returned as Mason, Michael Keaton was the replacement for Hudson. That is a crazy replacement if you ask me. Tony Todd is here too, and he loves saying cocksucker. In terms of characters, they are the best in the series. Raul Menendez is, while his motivations aren't the greatest, his sister died and he's crazy. That's it. Which I feel like wasn't delved into enough. He still remains, at the very least, the second best villain in the franchise. And I say that as I realize there's only 3 good ones, those being Shepard, Makarov, and of course Menendez. Out of all the missions, they are all really good and memorable. My personal favorite might be Karma because of the funny spider drone and how it looks. But then again, the rest are good, so like any mission, you pull one out of a hat, and yeah, that's the best mission in the game. The game also introduced side missions called Strike Force missions, if I remember correctly. These are okay, I don't think they're terrible, just not my favorite missions. They do affect the story, however, which I do find really cool. Which, yes, this is the first Call of Duty game to have more than one ending. If you haven't played Black Ops 2's campaign, for whatever reason, I highly recommend it. For multiplayer, this is probably the best in the series for me as well. They changed up the loadout customization instead of what we had before, which I won't lie was a great system. This time around, we get the pick 10 system. You can make a total of 10 selections. I like this system. However, I do also see it really does limit you at the same time while trying to give you more freedom. I never run throwables of any kind outside of the throwing axe, and that's not to say they are useless because they aren't. They just aren't something I use that often. The gunplay feels great, nothing can be shocked there. It's still quick, nearly every gun is usable. And I say nearly only because the SMR and the Executioner exist. Okay, if we want to get technical, those are usable too, but these guns are just so ass. I don't get how you would pick these over literally anything else, which sucks, because you hear a gun called the Executioner. Sounds badass, and yet it's a laughably bad gun. Yes, I say this meanwhile a gun like the Chickum exists. I find that gun actually not that bad. Of course, you have the monsters of this game being the AN-94, MSMC, DSR, and Ballista. At least those 4 guns are what I consider to be the best. Turns out, when these guns got slightly nerfed, David Vonderhaar got death threats over this. Crazy that this is something that very much seems like something that would happen like last week, but no, this was 11 years ago. Some things just never change, huh? Funny too, because even after the nerfs, the gun still felt really powerful, at least in my opinion. Still the best guns in the game. In my personal opinion, this is probably the best map selection. Yes, even better than Modern Warfare 2. I've always enjoyed this game's version of Nuketown. It's always been visually more appealing to me, way more than the other ones. The game gave us such classics like Raid, Hijack, Standoff, Plaza. The fact this map has never returned in any Black Ops game after is honestly just insane to me. It's absurd because this map is really good. Carrier was really good. Slums was good as well. Express might be a top 3 map in the entirety of the game or the franchise. There are some weak maps, of course. The only map that I think is downright terrible is Aftermath. Drone is okay to me. I don't hate it, but I just don't like playing it that much. This was the first game in the series that I've bought the DLC for. I picked it up last year because the season pass went on sale, and I had spare money at the time. And the DLC maps are really good. I have no complaints here. Game modes are as good as ever. The wager modes, however, are now labeled as party modes, and yeah, they're still peak. The emblem creator is as good as ever as well. My only issue with Black Ops 2's multiplayer is that every second or third match you do find someone wasting their life cheating on this nearly 12-year-old game.
Be advised, hostile UAV incoming.
Now for zombies, I think it's pretty good. The DLC maps, that is. The launch maps for me, while I didn't hate them, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Transit's kind of ass, but it gave us Ted, and I love Ted. We are Ted supporters here, and if you disagree, you're not welcome here. But yeah, I gotta repeat this because it will come up pretty much every time I talk about any of the zombies. I am no zombies fanatic. I enjoy the mode and I had my fun, but I never played it to the extent that I play multiplayer, but I enjoy the zombies maps on here a good bit.
Let's go gambling! I can't stop winning!
One last thing I want to add here, the music in this game is actually really good. Like, it's amazing, honestly. I think, in my opinion, honestly, I think it's the best in the series. I mean, Adrenaline is the most iconic track for any Call of Duty game, and everybody knows that. The rest of the music is just as good. But yeah, I just wanted to throw this in last minute because I forgot. But yeah, I really like the music in this game. It's great. Overall, Black Ops 2 is one of my favorite games, and in my opinion, is the peak of the series. Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 2, however, I believe are close, but for me it's an easy choice, and I am placing this game into S tier. So let's move on to Call of Duty Ghost. How does this happen? Call of Duty Ghost released on November 5th of 2013, and this game is confusing to me. I remember it being hated, but even when I first played it, I was just confused with it. Like, it's okay at best to me, but I just went back to Black Ops 2 immediately. Let's talk campaign. It exists. I don't think it's downright terrible, but in comparison to literally, and I mean this, literally every single campaign before this, maybe even the original trilogy, it's just not that good. Outside of the space mission in the beginning of the game, I didn't find any mission all too interesting or memorable. And even that specific mission wasn't even anything amazing to me. It was somewhat different for COD though, so I will take it. None of the characters really stuck out to me, which is really a shame because I really wanted to like them. Something I found funny to me though is that the character Hesh, who is the brother of the character you play as, he's voiced by Todd from Scott Pilgrim. It was kind of funny to me, but it didn't make me like his character that much because he was kind of boring here. The campaign's just fine, I mean, I guess. I don't really have much I can say that makes it bad. It's just, it felt boring and bland to me for the most part. Most of the levels looked boring. I understand the colors being dimmer, but they just don't look that nice at all. On to multiplayer. What the hell is this? The game has the fastest time to kill in the series to my knowledge, and with a TTK that fast, I wouldn't mind if it was in something like Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 2. And while I would find it to be a questionable design choice, those games at least had small enough maps where it could somewhat work. Not this game. And it's not like these maps couldn't work. Maybe they could in a 10v10 or in a Halo big team battle, or even in a game like Titanfall 2 or Black Ops 3 where it has movement that covers the ground. No, these are 6v6 maps. Look at Chasm. How the hell is this supposed to... What the hell is this supposed to be? Prison Break. It's a map that I can sometimes tolerate, mostly because I like the theme behind it, but again, it's just one of those maps that feels too big for a base 6v6 gameplay. Whiteout's just too damn big. This is probably the most egregious map in the entire game for me. Stovehaven is a bit of a joke of a map. It always has been. It's a giant ass map. However, I will give it some credit because it is one of the few maps where I can say, damn, this looks good. But every time I played a game on this map, everyone's always fighting in the village part of the map. Never the castle, which is a problem. Strike Zone and Warhawk, however, I thought were pretty good maps actually. I know Strike Zone is kind of that unanimously loved map in this game, or at least very liked, or maybe even just tolerated given this game's reputation. It's funny that I spend all this time talking about maps when there is more to talk about, but I don't really care. Apparently you can get these soldiers and loadouts for each one and they fight each other or something. I don't care. The only other thing I have sort of a feeling towards is the perk system. They changed it up this time. It's sort of like the BO2 pick 10 system, but only for perks. Each perk has a set value from 1 to 5. You get 8 points to use. You can choose maybe one great perk and some lower tier perks. You can mix and match it however you want. There's a total of 7 categories with 5 perks in each category, which I think means it probably has the most perks in any mainline Call of Duty game. And it's so good, I honestly wish this would return. The only other thing I actually liked out of this multiplayer was field orders. You basically pick up a briefcase looking thing off of a dead player and it gives you a challenge which can give you some kind of reward. One of those can be just a chem strike. I need this feature to return. This is stupid and I love it. Then there is extinction mode. I fuck with this mode heavy. Honestly, I think I had more fun with this than Spec Ops. It's not a zombies mode, however, it has you fighting cryptids, and it has a bit of a story, one that doesn't particularly interest me, but I like a lot of the maps, and it has its own progression system that is really cool and rewarding, and it's also really hard. Keep in mind I played this solo. I didn't have enough courage to ask anyone if they want to hop on COD Ghost, but I honestly really like Extinction. It's really cool, and I know I'm not alone in this. Overall though, COD Ghost is just mediocre to me. Campaign is honestly only one of the worst in the series because it's just forgettable, although I do think there are worse campaigns. I don't think it's a bad campaign, I just think compared to what's come after, it's not very memorable. The multiplayer, while having a very good perk system and overall loadout customization, isn't that bad. The maps completely ruin the experience for me, especially when I am finding that the DLC maps just completely wash most of what the game is launched with. But Extinction, from the little amount I was able to play and what I did play, I found very enjoyable, honestly. So for that, I'm going to be placing this game into C tier. Honestly, just put it at the top of C tier. So let's move on to Advanced Warfare. Released on November 4th of 2014, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Growing up, I played this game a lot on my old PS3, which I miss very much. I was coming off of playing Black Ops 1 and 2 and Modern Warfare 3 up to this point, and I really enjoyed it when I was younger. If you asked child me, who was a much smaller, stupider me, he would have said S tier right behind Black Ops 2. Current adult me, I say it's good. Let's start with the campaign. Honestly, it's the same case as Call of Duty Ghost. It's okay. It's a very forgettable campaign. It's fine. It's honestly on the lower end of the campaigns as well. And I say this because I've played through it 3 times, and my only takeaway all 3 times was Kevin Spacey.
Incoming mid link from command.
Hey, y'all! It's Big Fat Reverend Bird here again!
The gameplay for it, most of it wasn't very experimental or as fun as you would expect in the first advanced movement COD game. It doesn't take advantage or make much use out of the movement they give us. Even certain gameplay mechanics aren't really used that much either. However, the level Sentinel is probably the only mission I can even remember out of the entirety of the game, because it is a bit like a stealth mission where you can approach it almost however you want, but outside of that, the rest of it's pretty boring to play. I will give credit where it's due. I love how these levels look. They are gorgeous to look at. Multiplayer talk now. It's the best aspect of the game in my opinion. Time to kill and the gunplay are overall fine. One thing that I never mentioned till now is the sound effects, though. I will say it here because the sounds of the guns in Advanced Warfare feel way more grating on the ears than I ever remembered. Just, it's disgusting. The maps are overall alright. There is some that I do like, such as Detroit. Might be a bit biased with this one. Ascend is one of my favorites. I love the atmosphere within it. Terrace I always liked. Recovery, one of the coolest maps in the series. Halfway into the game, the map alternates into a new section of the map that was so cool the first time I played it, all those years ago, and it still goes crazy. It's dynamic, it's unique. I don't recall if this ever happened again. Balancing for this game I remember was a nightmare. The ASM-1 and the BAL just obliterated everything. Although me personally, I preferred using something like the Morse despite being terrible with it. Now we can't talk multiplayer here without addressing the elephant in the room. Supply drops. Yeah, they suck, so what? My only problem with them is I genuinely never understood how you could get more of them. If you weren't a whale like Ali-A in this game, you were fucked. There was nothing you could do about it. The Obsidian Steed, the Speakeasy, the Hole Puncher, and Insanity, some of the most infamous variants in, if memory serves me right here at least, and it is because they drastically improved these guns to the point where anyone that had any of these wouldn't put them down to save their life. There's also of course the Quick Bolt, but that one is funny for other reasons. I don't mind the idea of variants, but some of these straight up ruined balancing for this game. Not to say it was perfectly balanced, but when RNG is involved like this, I feel like it completely ruins it. And again, I'm fine with unbalanced weapons when it's fair. Monetizing this isn't fair. Also didn't help that whole ass guns were locked behind supply drops, but I don't remember any of them being good. I like the character customization. In hindsight, it's dumb as hell considering this is a first-person shooter where you only see your character in the lobby and when you die, but it was cool nonetheless. On to zombies. I couldn't care less about this mode, man. I liked Ascension. That map I thought was pretty cool. The best thing I can say about this mode is that John Bernthal was a part of it. And Bruce Campbell too, apparently. What are you even doing here, old man? In all honesty, I got bored of zombies in this game. And that was mostly because I just wasn't rocking with the other maps. I don't think it's terrible, but I really struggled to stay interested in it. Not much else to say. Overall, I do have a special place for this game in my heart. It was a part of my childhood. I played it a lot, and to this day, I still enjoy it, albeit not as much as I did when I was younger. However, I will be placing this game in B tier below COD 4, so let's move on to Black Ops 3.
Train go boom.
Released on November 6th of 2015, Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I've been waiting to talk about this game. I remember the first time I played it, my uncle showed it to me, and I remember how cool it was seeing that startup screen. So good. Now, it is extremely hard to do this with how much nostalgia I have for this game in particular, but let's start with the only thing that's keeping it out of S tier for me. That's the campaign. It is so bad. It is comedy. The game is funny, but it's confusing as all hell as well. It's not even remotely connected to the previous games for who knows why. You play as the most well-written character in the franchise, player. The moment I realized these missions are placed out of order was the funniest realization to me. Like, oh, so that's why I don't understand a damn thing. The gameplay of the campaign itself also doesn't do much to really justify the setting. You can play it just like any other COD game, same went for Advanced Warfare. But honestly, my main issue just falls solely onto the story and writing being terrible overall.
Train go boom.
And there was cool concepts at play here that felt really underwhelming in execution. DNI, Corvus, it could have been a cool story about AI and technology and all that. Well, yeah, it would have been generic and something that we've seen before most likely. It could have been cool. But none of it makes sense, and the characters do and say stupid stuff, and a lot of stuff just straight up isn't explained. There is like barely any foreshadowing at all. One of the most crucial points of the story is the fast-moving text. What? Why would you do this? The ending just makes no sense at all, and you literally have to become a goddamn scientific researcher with a PhD just to understand the story. Now, of course, I much prefer a story that doesn't directly tell every little plot point and all that. However, that doesn't apply to this game. Something Call of Duty usually struggles with is show don't tell. In some games, they get it right. Most times, they don't. In Black Ops 3, they don't even tell you. I'm done talking about this campaign. Let's just get into the good parts of this game. Multiplayer is really good. I know somebody is waiting outside my window wanting me to talk about how bad supply drops are, so I will get to that in a minute, but let's talk about what I like. Time to kill and gunplay feel great in this game. The movement is a huge step up over Advanced Warfare, while not nearly as smooth or as good as Titanfall 2, which yes, I will be comparing it to. A lot of the maps are solid. Combine, Breach, Fringe, great maps. There is fewer launch maps than I remember, and I will not sit here and pretend that these are even some of the greatest maps in the series, and because most of the DLC maps are even better. Like, remember Splash or Citadel or Rupture? Pretty sure that one let you control robots. That was just a really solid map overall. Although it was a bit too big for 6v6, I would say, but it's much better than what we had in Ghost. The customization is just like Black Ops 2's. However, you have 6 total attachments that you can put on a gun at the cost of literally everything else. This was the first game to include Specialist. Personally, my favorite were Spectre, Firebreak, and Reaper. All of them are very good. My least favorite was probably Battery, and they were all pretty overpowered, but I don't think it was a bad thing to introduce in this game. In my opinion, it works. And yet, another elephant in the room, the supply drops. I will say though that they did make it easier to get supply drops for free with crypto keys. If you want a free weapon, just get 75 wins. Yeah, fuck you. For the record, those weapon bribes there don't actually guarantee a gun. Again, fuck you. Honestly, if the MSMC didn't exist, I don't think I would care. Genuinely, I could not care less about the supply drops if that one gun didn't exist. Seriously, this gun is so much better than everything in this game, and it's somehow better than it was in BO2, which was already a top tier weapon. But in this game, it can straight up rival assault rifles and snipers and win. Overall, though, I do really enjoy the multiplayer, and maybe it's the nostalgia talking. I think it's a top tier one at that.
I am become death, the destroyer of scrubs.
For zombies, I think it's really good. The only launch map the game has, Shadows of Evil, is something to be admired. The art direction behind this map is just beautiful. The other maps are cool. Gorod Krovi is a pretty cool map as well. This game also returns Dead Ops Arcade, which I just realized I didn't even mention that for Black Ops 1. Dead Ops Arcade is really good. The game introduced Gobblegum, which in theory I don't think is that bad. Yeah, there's some utterly absurd Gobblegums, not to name any names, but Perkaholic. Again, not the most diehard zombies player here, but I really enjoyed Black Ops 3 Zombies. I mostly just chose what map I had played based on what I thought looked cool. I'm not the most knowledgeable on zombies, so I wouldn't know what one is fundamentally better than the other, but I'm sure I'll find out. Overall, I love Black Ops 3. However, and it is only because of how ass the campaign is, I am placing this game at the very top of A tier above everything else. So let's move on to Infinite Warfare.
Now that's a supply drop.
Released on November 4th of 2016, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was not a very liked game back when it dropped. We all remember how that reveal trailer went down. I have a feeling I'm going to make a few enemies with this one, like I didn't with the last ranking video already, but I have always enjoyed this game, like a lot. Even at launch, I remember some people at school talking crazy about it, but I remember personally always enjoying and liking the game. But I won't pretend that this isn't just a watered down Black Ops 3. Infinity Ward themselves wasn't even hiding it. That's how obvious it was. The only thing they didn't replicate, however, was the campaign, because it was actually good and made sense. The only part of this game that I say Infinite Warfare is better than BO3 at. For the campaign, the characters are all good. Some are a bit forgettable, but you had Reyes, Salter, and Ethan, which was a solid trio of good characters. Ethan was always my personal favorite. Although I do tend to have a bias for robot characters in media, Ethan's death somehow got me feeling really emotional when it happened. Yes, I got more emotional over a robot. I'm not afraid to admit it. The villain sucks ass. Straight up. I can't even remember his name. That's just how forgettable and lame he is. Even his acting ain't even that good. It's like they had everything down but the villain. The actual levels themselves play pretty by the books for a COD campaign. Which kind of sucks. The movement, yet again, is barely utilized, which is such a shame because what they have here, concept-wise, could be so much cooler. The Jackal missions where you actually fly the Jackals, those spaceship things, are really fun. I enjoy playing them a lot, but I think what makes the campaign a bit more enjoyable is it's just the overall landscapes, the environment, the art direction. It's all so beautiful to look at. Genuinely, this is by far my favorite Call of Duty game visually. Onto the multiplayer. Yeah, it's a watered down BO3. Specialists come back as combat rigs. Now, I will say, FTL, he's fly as fuck, okay? That ain't up for a debate. Merc, he's a chunky boy. We support him over here. I like Phantom Sniper, whatever that thing is. It can pin people to walls. It's hilarious. Then here comes Synaptic. What a dumb-looking robot. One of his abilities, he crawls around like a dog. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a COD game. To this day, not even Nicki Minaj in Modern Warfare 2 could top how stupid this is. The maps, I won't lie, they're not the best for the game with this kind of movement. That being said, I still like them. Throwback is a great map, Genesis as well. Most of the DLC maps are. They're beautiful to look at, and they don't play that bad. Scrap is a cool one because it has one of those magnets that can pick you up. Remember when maps had fun gimmicks? Yeah, me neither. Now, that one is a DLC map, however, so that's kind of lame. There is one problem that I feel plagues this multiplayer experience, however, and that is the egregious out-of-bound barriers. BO3 and Advanced Warfare had them as well, don't get me wrong, but in Infinite Warfare, it is actually so bad here, and I completely understand if it is a turnoff for players. Me personally, I can tolerate it, so I'm fine because I don't go over to those specific spots in the map anyways, but it sucks because I find most of what is here to be really cool. Supply drops in this game, yeah, I'm done talking about those. I don't care anymore, stop asking. Just gonna move on to the zombies real quick. I love zombies in Infinite Warfare. It's not perfect by any means, and I still prefer BO1 and 3 over it, but zombies in Spaceland is genuinely one of the best looking maps from an art direction standpoint. And the other maps are good too, but Spaceland is easily the best one. Also, Paul Rubens is in this. You know, the guy that played Pee Wee Herman? Love that guy. David Hasselhoff is here too. This ain't the first time big celebs were in zombies, but this one was just funny to me, especially when you open up the game and be greeted by David's stupid face, just plastered right there. Like, he looks like he's got a gun pointed to him off screen.
Lyle, turn on the TV, they hit the Pentagon!
Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Infinite Warfare, and I do understand the flaws this game has, but to me, I've always saw it as another BO3. No, it is not better than BO3. I get it, some people are going to take it that way, but it has a good campaign, something BO3 could never say. I'm going to place it at the very top of A tier, just below Black Ops 3. Alright, right below Black Ops 3. I know that might be a bit of a controversial take, considering what is below it, but it's how I feel. Now let's move on to World War II. Released on November 3rd of 2017, Call of Duty World War II. When it first came out, it was easily one of my least favorite games of all time. I hated it. More than I disliked Need for Speed Rivals. Playing it in the big 2024? How am I feeling on it? It exists. Out of all the Call of Duty games here, this is just the most nothing game I have played. Now, am I just jaded from playing all these games? Well, yeah. But this game really doesn't do anything interesting. It has some flaws, but it's just fine overall. The campaign's straight up forgettable. For every World War II campaign before this game, you at the very least played as one other faction, which is something I could admire and respect about those older COD games. In COD World War II, you like being American? The opening mission on Normandy ain't half bad. It's pretty good. And then there's the one infiltration mission, which is easily the best in the game. All the other ones are fine. The characters, I will say, are actually pretty good. The main protagonist, I think, is pretty likable. The twist at the end where his brother actually died, I thought wasn't that bad. But other than that, it's very generic. You also have that gameplay feature where you can call out to your squad mates for health packs, ammo, and whatever. Multiplayer-wise, again, it's fine. It's really forgettable. Most of the maps here are 3 lanes, pretty by the books here. I like USS Texas, mostly due to the idea of being on a ship. I think that's cool. I liked London Docks as well, but the map I remember most is Gustav Cannon, only because I remember everyone hating it. The guns feel fine in this game, however, I will say, why the fuck does the SCG have no recoil whatsoever? I have no attachments on in this clip. What is going on here? They changed the perks again. This time, basically only making it to where you only need to have 1 perk. Stupid idea, basically making them useless. You got the headquarters thing, which is a lot like what Destiny had. It's cool, I don't care about it. On to zombies, it's boring. I only played Final Reich, so this might be a bit skewed. But if the other maps play like anything like Final Reich, then I'll just call it boring. It doesn't look bad, mind you, and I like that it's going for a dark horror aesthetic, which, to be fair, every Zombies was also going for that to an extent, but still. The only thing I have to say about this is that the Arby's commercial guy is one of the characters and you can play as him. That's all. That's the only positive thing I'll say about it. World War II is fine. I feel indifferent towards it, and so I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier. I'm really tired. Moving on to Black Ops 4. Released on October 12th of 2018, Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Fun fact, this was the first game I had ever pre-ordered. I was not very smart with my financial decisions, and I'm still not. When BO4 first dropped, I won't lie, I enjoyed it. Nowadays, not so much. In fact, I very much dislike this game. First, let's discuss the biggest elephant in the room. No, it's not supply drops, please shut up. And no, it's not the campaign either, because there isn't one. They have a replacement that I didn't bother with because I don't care. Multiplayer, you know how BO3, the specialist, you had to choose between either their weapon or the ability? You get both. You get the option to have both. You also have the option to replace it with grenades in your loadout, but they are just so inferior. Why the hell would you do that? BO4 tries to be a hero shooter, and it does not work for me. Why play this when you had Overwatch? I actually like the idea of a slower TTK in this game. It does feel a bit long in this game, however. If it was just a little bit faster, it would be perfect. Which, actually, there is a COD game, 2 COD games not too far ahead that I think got this right to an extent. In terms of loadout customization, it's fine. It's actually not bad. Just wish the grenades were actually good enough to be considered for a loadout, but you know, that's just me. The operator mods are a neat idea that I wish they expanded upon more, like giving the Vapor XKG a bayonet, turning the GKS into a 4-round burst, dual wielding the SOG. Not really sure why that was an operator mod and not just a regular attachment. Now yeah, these essentially were just glorified attachments and they were restricted to only certain guns. But again, this could have been much cooler and they could have expanded on it more. And I actually like the feature anyways. My personal favorite was the Cordite with the belt feed. Because it just turns the gun into a death machine, and it's just so stupid. Realistically, this would be terrible for trying to make a game balanced, but I love it. One other problem with this game, though, they done fucked up my boy. Reaper in BO3 was a badass. Anyone with good taste loved him. I mean, look at him. His customization options were cool as well. What is this? Treyarch, explain yourself. And his voice, oh, it's so grating on the ears. He just has no sauce at all. They took it from him. They took his sauce. I completely forgot to even add in a segment about the maps. Most of them are just regular 3-lane, by the books maps. Not bad, But like, if you want to snipe on any of these maps, you are going to at most have only like one good sightline that you can even like use, and usually it's off towards the side of the map. Sure, you have that map gridlock, which for some reason I remember, you have that one spot in the middle, but most maps completely invalidate being a regular sniper. If you want to use a sniper, you got a quick scope on it. But yeah, like, none of the maps are good. Well, Nuketown's pretty good, but that's Nuketown. The remakes are the best maps in the entire game, and that's a problem. Remake maps from a previous game should not be the best maps. For zombies, if memory serves me right, this was a pretty controversial one within the community. As a filthy casual, I thought it was okay. I liked the Titanic map at first, but then after the first run, it just wasn't really that good playing on it. 9 is a good map. I like 9. The DLC maps all look good too. The perk system, to this day, I'm still confused by it. Now, Blackout. I don't like Battle Royales anymore. Fortnite and Apex were the only ones I did enjoy, but again, I'm losing interest in those as well, especially Apex. Have you seen what they're doing with that game? What the fuck is going on over there? But Call of Duty Battle Royales like this in Warzone, they're just not my thing, and I have nothing more to say on the matter. This is just not worth replacing the campaign. When Black Ops 4 first came out, I enjoyed it and had fun. In 2024, I get confused how I had fun with this. One thing that my opinion hasn't changed on is the camos. Best in the series, no contest. Black Ops 3 had some really good camos too, but this game had Rainbow Diamond. Don't get me wrong here, there's some other neat stuff here, but for my personal enjoyment as of now, especially after playing what came before it, D tier. I don't like this game anymore. Alright, so I am fully prepared for the amount of hate I might get for this ranking. So let's get through it. Modern Warfare 2019, released on October 25th of that year. It was the beginning of a new and even darker era of Call of Duty in my opinion. The first reboot in a very confusing trilogy. First, the campaign. It's actually really good. I don't think it's the best, but it has some high highs. Clean House is the mission most people talk about and probably say is the best mission. I disagree with that take immensely. Clean House I think is a good mission, don't get me wrong, but Going Dark is just so much better of a mission. And I wholeheartedly believe that this is the best stealth in Call of Duty we will ever get. I haven't talked about stealth in any of these prior games, and that's for good reason. It's barely even stealth. At best, what you get is sit in a bush or behind a tree and wait. But in most cases, you can just not listen and shoot everything. Is it the smart option? Not really, and sometimes the game tells you fuck you and restarts the mission or sends you back to your last checkpoint. In Going Dark, however, I feel like there was an actual attempt to make an actual stealth mission. Sure, Clean House is cool because you can throw a flashbang at a baby, but in Going Dark, it has you stealthily infiltrating a private estate, shooting lights to hide yourself within the shadows. Of course, it's not spectacular as a stealth game. I mean, it's Call of Duty, the hell did you expect? But it gives a good attempt, and honestly, I wish we had a COD game that did this, but improved upon it. At least one time. For the rest of the campaign, it's good, but there's nothing much more for me to say about it. Although, I will say the antagonist, General Barkov, I only remembered his name because I looked up the wiki. This is the most forgettable COD villain. On to the multiplayer, it's the same situation I was in when Black Ops 4 came out. I enjoyed the game a lot when it came out, but coming back to it, I'm not too big of a fan of it. Now, some of you watching may already be commenting, yup, sounds like the COD cycle to me. The thing is, though, you are correct. However, I actually find this game somewhat more enjoyable than BO4. This game introduced the Gunsmith, which I think is still a really cool feature. You get a selection of 5 attachments, with most of them drastically changing what your gun looks like, which can lead to some stupid looking monstrosities. The gunplay and time to kill, I don't think are that bad. I mean, the guns feel weighty in this game, for better or for worse. Time to kill is really fast. Now let's talk maps. Anyone remember the launch maps? Garbage. Absolute dog shit ass maps. Piccadilly was easily the most hated map in the game. To this day, it still sucks ass, but I will say as time went on, the maps that released post-launch were not that bad. But let's start with the launch maps. Piccadilly, Ania Palace, Grozno Raid, Euphrates fucking Bridge. These maps are horrible. I hate these maps with a burning passion. They do nothing but incentivize camping over everything. I don't mind camping as a playstyle. As annoying as it can get, I find it somewhat valid. because, you know what, sometimes I want to sit in the corner. Not me, I'm just speaking, like, metaphor. I don't know what I'm speaking, but you get what I mean. I only liked 4 out of the 10 6v6 launch maps. Hackney Yard, easily the best map in the game, even by the end of its life cycle. Ramaza, I don't mind it that much, actually. It's actually a underrated map, I think. Gunrunner is a surprisingly good map, and, you know, it's cool because it was actually the first campaign mission. That's where it was, and I thought that was cool. A lot of older COD games did that as well, and I thought that was awesome. And I didn't mind Arklov Peak. Post-launch, Shoot House, the most obvious map. It's good. Now, I'm not going to talk about the remakes because they were brought back for a reason. Candor Hideout I thought was really good, but they did improve the overall map pool, and the best map isn't even a remake. Ain't that something? Despite my biggest issues being fixed by the end of the game's life cycle, I really find myself not having too much fun playing it. Camping was the most catered to playstyle it felt like in this game, with some of the noisiest footsteps I have ever heard in a video game, and some fundamentally stupid design choices like making Dead Silence a field upgrade that you can only get temporarily. If the footsteps weren't ear rupturing in this game, maybe it wouldn't really matter that much, but because of how this life is, that isn't the case, and it matters very much. Overall, I think the multiplayer is flawed, but can still be enjoyable. I personally didn't enjoy every second of it, mostly because of how bad some of those maps were, but to an extent, I can see why this was held to a higher regard, unlike some of those other newer COD games. There is this one thing in this game that I still, to this day, love playing, however. Gunfight. I love the 2v2. I think there's a 1v1 variant too. But as simple as it was fun. The maps they made for this mode were actually good. They're not bad at all. Overall, I really loved the mode. There's not much to really say about the mode, but I really loved it as simplistic as it was. For Spec Ops, however, this is damn near unplayable. It sucks. To this very day, it is still so buggy, it's confusing how it never got fixed during post-launch. And when it isn't being a buggy mess, it is so difficult, and not in a fun way, not in a Dark Souls haha get fucked way. This is 1,000 times worse than World at War on Veteran, mixed in with like Sekiro and every FromSoft game to be combined. It is that bad. And you know what would make this a bit better? A difficulty option, because there isn't one. Spec Ops was never a mode I cared for. I thought it was fun for a bit, but I kind of just thought of it as nothing more than a neat side dish. Did it have its value being a part of those older Modern Warfare games? Absolutely. After all, it gives you something to do outside of multiplayer and would somewhat continue off of the campaign of that game. But here, it just sucks. The enemies are some of the most infuriating that I've ever witnessed in a video game in general. Basic ass soldiers half the time I feel like don't even register that they're being shot and just shrug off bullets. Juggernauts, I mean, yeah, Juggernauts they're supposed to be annoying, but yeah. If you asked me to describe what the typical Modern Warfare 2019 Spec Ops experience is like, even in 2024, these words will most likely never leave your screen. Overall, Modern Warfare 2019, it's a fine game. It's okay. I like the campaign. I think it's great. Multiplayer, it's okay. It's alright. Not anywhere close to my favorite. Spec Ops is something they decided to create the way they did. Might be a controversial take, but I'm placing this game at the top of C tier. Mostly carried by the campaign and somewhat by the multiplayer. So let's move on to COD Mobile. Okay, listen, in my Need for Speed ranking video, I avoided talking about that mobile game because it felt like not really a game. But for COD Mobile, even with its Diddy level of predatory microtransactions, I can still see this as a game. Released by the end of September of 2019, at least I think, Google gave me 3 different release dates. The game takes pretty much anything and everything from the mainline games. Although I remember a period in time where it would get most of its content solely from Modern Warfare 2019 and Cold War, this game looks and plays really well for a mobile game. And for a live service game, it gets content frequently, at least as far as I know. I hadn't really touched this game since like February of 2022, and that's me being generous. The multiplayer I think is the best it could be for a mobile game. Not much of a fan of the specialist weapons. They feel kind of forced in this game, just for the sake of it. Battle Royale mode is literally just Blackout. I think they even got the Blackout map for it at one point. It was fine.
For zombies, you like Shino Numa?
I mean, yeah, it's fine. I don't hate Shino Numa. I think Shino Numa is a great map. But there really isn't much to do here. I remember at one point they just straight up removed it. and then it's back. And I remember they also brought it back when they introduced this Undead Siege mode, which was stupid and terrible. But now we're back to square one with only one zombies map. Personally, I just don't really care for COD Mobile anymore, and after going back to these COD games, I realized that I enjoy the console and PC Call of Duty games much more, which is not the most surprising thing. I'm going to place this game right below Modern Warfare 2019 in C tier. Now moving on to Warzone. Warzone sucks ass. Black Ops Cold War. Released on November 13th of 2020, and if we are being real with ourselves, it really shouldn't have. Development for this game was screwed, originally being a Sledgehammer game, then due to creative differences or something, Sledge and Raven just got removed from it, and Treyarch was forced into cleaning up the mess. Or, I know Sledgehammer was removed from it, Raven, they made the campaign. I don't know for how long Treyarch spent developing the game. I remember hearing at least 9 months, which I refuse to believe. But the fact this game even exists is kind of a miracle, isn't it? Being what was a shitstorm between Ravensoft and Sledgehammer, to then have Treyarch just clean up their mess and even working during a quarantine. And for it to turn out as actually a decent COD game to me is insane. I remember the launch, it was bad. Even though Treyarch, in my opinion, missed with Black Ops 4, which I 100% believe was also fucked over by rush deadlines and crunch, hell, every game in the AAA industry is, but Cold War for me proved that Treyarch is really just that studio to go to for a Call of Duty game. For the campaign, it was mostly made by Raven Software, and it's genuinely so good. Adler is the best new character to be introduced in a COD game since Infinite Warfare, and I will stand by this till the day I die. Adler is a top 5 character in the franchise in my opinion. He has sauce, bro. Look at him. I really like the mission Red Light, Green Light. I just like the whole level that was designed. Look at it. It looks good. It plays well. Honestly, that's how I felt about most of the campaign. This game goes even harder in exploring the MK Ultra project, which, sure, why not? It was cool in BO1, and it gives us, in my opinion, one of my favorite missions because of how goofy it is. Break On Through. This is such an unserious mission. There's so much random nonsense going on in this level. It is just a mix of seriousness and stupidity that makes it perfect to me, and it is probably one of the most important to the story as well, which makes it even better.
Rerunning Scenario 1. Bell, we've got a job to do.
I wouldn't advise that.
I didn't ask.
Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite campaigns in the series, right alongside Black Ops 1 and 2 and Infinite Warfare. I would put this in the top 5 of the entire series because it's so good. Yeah, the choices that you have in this game aren't, at least in my opinion, as good as Black Ops 2. It's still a nice addition to have and honestly adds way more to the story. For multiplayer, this is a bit of a controversial one, but to an extent it is probably the closest to a classic COD game. The movement definitely doesn't feel as quick or as smooth or good as Modern Warfare 2019, but it doesn't have a bunch of unnecessary stuff. See, I think tac sprint and slide canceling are cool, but I still very much prefer not having tac sprint, and slide canceling is toned down in this game. Of course, the TikTok montage kids hated this because apparently giving yourself arthritis and a seizure at the age of 16 apparently became a skill set. But personally, I really liked the multiplayer. On launch, there wasn't a whole lot of content, only having 8 6v6 maps on launch, which I think is the lowest number in the series, but I could be wrong. Gunsmith returned, but was really dumbed down in comparison, making what attachments you chose really not matter as much, because you would all just resort to the same attachments on each gun. But to start with the maps, there are pretty solid maps. If I remember correctly, Satellite was regarded as one of the worst maps in the game, compared to everything else that was in the game, yeah. However, it kind of felt like this game's version of Wasteland to me. Is it something I would choose to play if given the option? Let's not get carried away here. Post-launch, this game was probably traded the best, and that is usually what Treyarch does though. It was the same for BO3. That game got content all the way up till 4 released. I will say this game does a similar thing that Black Ops 4 did by adding a bunch of remakes. However, the original maps that were put in this game were also really good, so it didn't matter. I liked Deprogram. America with a K was probably the best one out of the whole game in my opinion. And I loved the Pines map as well. One thing I didn't realize though was how many remakes there were actually in this game. I knew Raid was in the game. Nuketown is in every Treyarch game. I remember playing Standoff. But Hijacked? Rush? Express was apparently in the game since Season 1. I don't remember that. Slums just appears in another Black Ops game again. My favorite remakes in this game, though, are definitely Drive-In and Zoo, because these were DLC maps in Black Ops 1 that hadn't returned since. To move away from maps, the guns themselves feel fine. I actually think this is the closest we have gotten to a perfect time to kill in a COD game. Personally, it's slow, but much faster in comparison to a BO4. It could be a little bit quicker, but honestly, the TTK feels good in this game. Wildcards come back. The only one I ever really used, though, was the one that let you put 8 total attachments on your primary, which most times I either don't have enough attachments on every gun because leveling up in this game is just too damn slow for arbitrary reasons, or it just isn't necessary to begin with. But at the same time, perks don't really matter that much in this game anyway, at least in my opinion. Honestly, I really enjoyed Cold War. At first, I didn't really like it that much, but by the end of it, I've really grown to appreciate this game because as flawed as it is, I can look past that. Zombies in this game is the most simplistic and dumbed down since World at War, and I really like it. This mode got me back into zombies, and while I don't think it's an amazing experience, it does one thing that the zombies experiences that came after couldn't dream of doing: be fun. I think it's a pretty solid entry point for a newcomer to the series. I like the upgrade system where you could use different kinds of Ethereum that is obtained from surviving rounds to upgrade the perks and weapon classes to make the game easier. My one problem was the lack of maps. One map on launch I don't think is bad. The best one, in my opinion, only had Shadows of Evil on launch. But throughout the game's life, it ended with a total of 4 maps, which, don't get me wrong, that ain't bad. That's how many Advanced Warfare had. And I do like the maps. Forsaken is my favorite. I like the mission that took place in this area, and genuinely might just be my favorite location we see in this game. It's just so cool. Die Maschine is a really good map for camo grinding. Mauer der Toten is okay, and I thought Firebase C wasn't that bad. I don't like having operators forced into this though. I get why it had to be a feature, but it cannot be understated how much of Zombies' personality is stripped away by what should just be an unimportant feature. But if you have played any of the Ultimus or Primus crew maps, you know exactly what I mean. For the sake of the ranking, I will be putting Cold War in B tier, below World at War, and above COD 4. So let's move on to Vanguard.
I'm over here stroking my dick.
I'm really tired. I have a headache now. Oh right, Vanguard. Sometimes I forget this game exists, then I get jump scared when I see it on my shelf. Released on November 5th of 2021, Call of Duty Vanguard, it's definitely a game. I wouldn't doubt it if this game went through horrible crunch and rush development. It's what I heard anyway. The campaign is lame and forgettable for most of it. The only thing I remember from my playthrough was that it took me half a year to actually finish it because it's just so boring, and the Nazi getting racist within the first 20 minutes. Other than that, I don't really remember much, nor do I care. It's one of the shorter campaigns too, which was the funniest thing. Things I liked, it was pretty, and Arthur Kingsley wasn't that bad of a character. That's all. The whole story felt pointless because it was mostly just the backstories to all the characters, and I just couldn't care. Then they went back into battle or whatever. It just doesn't build any real connection to the characters, nor does it really show the characters really interacting with each other much. They're so lame. Multiplayer, I played like 20 hours in Season 1, then never again. You move so fast in this game, it's almost inhuman, but I think it pairs pretty well with the fast TTK. 10 attachments on every weapon by default, no wildcards needed. You just gotta level up your gun to have 10 attachments. Yeah, okay, that's normal. The maps are fine, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I just really couldn't care when I played this game. As fast as it was, I felt sleepy. Also, the multiplayer just looks so much uglier in comparison to the campaign. It was weird. It is just a lame Modern Warfare 2019, but in World War II. Zombies is downright terrible. I will not elaborate. Bottom of D tier. Below Black Ops 4. Moving on to Modern Warfare 2. It's not even been a full 2 years since I made that original review, and yet I have done a near full 180 on this game. In all honesty, the video sucks. The transitions are laughably long. I kind of made an editing mistake that for some reason I still haven't cut out. Video balancing is shit. Probably worse than what people think the Need for Speed video was. This was the first video I made when I first started making these reviews and video essays, so to say it was rough is the biggest understatement of all time. However, I will say, I think one of my favorite clips was created in this video. go in and references! Released on October 22nd of 2022, Modern Warfare 2. It doesn't deserve that name. The campaign isn't as good as I originally thought after my first playthrough. I think that was just recency bias was hitting me hard with this game because the last COD I touched was Vanguard. Originally, I said it was amazing. It's not. I realized this on a replay a few weeks back, and genuinely one of these missions I even ended up fully enjoying without getting bored. That being the mission Alone. It has neat mechanics like the crafting and is a mostly stealth mission. However, it's a COD game, so stealth is as good as a Whopper from Burger King. The best thing this campaign has to offer is the nice character moments though between Soap and Ghost. Yeah, Ghost is actually a character this time around and he's really good. Other than that, Farah is shown but barely does anything. Shepard's betrayal is not nearly as cool, but maybe that is because we all expected it. Armored enemies are still stupid and poorly designed, and I have a vendetta against the idiot that signed off on them. The villain Hassan, just like General Barkov, he doesn't do much. Literally, the game could have been over within 2 hours because they had him in captivity, but because of a legality, they had to let him go and run free. Like, okay, I didn't know Call of Duty cared about that. 2019 literally had the whole gloves off thing, but whatever. The camera mission serves no purpose and does not make sense contextually in this game. It is here only to serve as a false reality that they are switching up the gameplay. Modern Warfare 2019 did the same thing, but there was a different context behind it. You weren't telling a guy that was armed with a rifle and military gear where to go. You were guiding a civilian in a building to get away from people that would kill her on sight. Honestly, I don't think the campaign's that bad. I just don't think it's that good either. Multiplayer. Yikes. The maps are overall just okay. I like Embassy, Farm 18. Farm 18 is actually a pretty good Infinity Ward map, surprisingly. Almost too good, as if some other developer made it. And I like the racetrack map. The one border map was probably just made to be funny because this map is completely unplayable. The TTK in this game, as I said in the review, is more akin to COD Ghost. While I still believe that is true, COD Ghost, I am so sorry for the mistreatment of your name. Modern Warfare 2 is basically COD Ghost 2, but in the worst way possible. While it may not have the oversized maps, it has a, let's just say, a unique perk system. It's bad. No, it's straight up awful. You get these perk packages, and only 2 of them are able to be in play off the rip. The other 2 are available later in the game as if this is Overwatch. To make matters worse, they brought Last Stand back. Granted, you don't get a gun when you go down, but you can revive yourself, which makes it even worse. The system just comes off as a change for the sake of change. See, Ghost did the same thing, but it was cool. It opened up more possibilities with a loadout customization, and ended up being really good despite the flaws that really killed the multiplayer for me. But here, it just feels like it's forced for no real reason. It doesn't really do much outside of demotivate me from even changing up my perks. Because truthfully, the only one I thought mattered was either Quick Fix or Survivor, aka Last Stand. Because to me, Quick Fix is like the tiniest band-aid for a questionably fast time to kill. If the time to kill was just a tad bit slower, I wouldn't mind it that much. But this game just tries to front as a tactical shooter. This is Call of Duty. This is anything but that. Movement started bothering me the more I played it. It just felt so boring to play. While I won't say I'm the biggest supporter of Modern Warfare 2019 and its movement, but at least it didn't feel like I was stuck in concrete. The UI is just abysmal. It's so bad. There is absolutely no defense for this. After all the updates, it's still not even that functional half the time. And it's disgusting. Case closed. Spec Ops, I'll be honest, when it first came out, my expectations were in the depths of hell because of how garbage the last iteration was. But here, it's actually not that bad. There isn't a whole lot to do here, but there is actually something. And it feels somewhat finished. The enemy AI is still really frustrating at times, but at the very least, it is still playable and not nearly as bad as Modern Warfare 2019. Overall, I really just am not sure why I was praising Modern Warfare 2 so much at launch, but as of now, my enjoyment of this game is damn near non-existent. But if you like it, more power to you. D tier, below Black Ops 4, above Vanguard. Let's move on to Warzone 2. This game sucks ass. We finally made it. We finally made it. The final game of this ranking. Modern Warfare 3 2023, the reboot released on November 10th of 2023. This game is a disgrace. Somehow we have gone lower. How is that possible, you may ask? Well, crunching developers and treating them like garbage is one way. Let's just start with the campaign. Worst in not just the reboot trilogy, not just the Modern Warfare games, the entire franchise. This campaign is horrible. It's embarrassing how bad it is, honestly. But then again, it does make sense because this game was most likely supposed to be a DLC. The thing is, though, is that there was 2 missions I actually liked. The first mission, while not being anything special, it's a very traditional COD level, all things considered, but most of the campaign is comprised of these monstrosities called open combat missions. Did anyone else just groan every time this symbol appeared on screen, or was it just me? They are here just to bloat the non-existent runtime, which is about 3.5 hours. At least for me, it took me that long. And they are all so boring. High Rise was the only open combat mission that I didn't think was that bad. It was cool, but not something I would replay. But the worst mission in the game is this one where you play as Laswell and go to a Russian military base undercover. They will shoot you for simply existing. It's the worst mission by far. The enemy AI is downright terrible. Some of the worst I've seen in a Call of Duty game. This campaign is unfinished, but this mission, I feel like it's the most noticeable because the only way you get through this is by moving at a snail's pace, and if you move a little bit faster, boom, you gotta go back to your last checkpoint. The characters are all boring, Soap dies and it's uneventful, and it's just not nearly as memorable or heart-wrenching as the original. The campaign just sucks. Makarov sucks. I just don't care about this anymore. They killed Shepard in an after-credit scene. On to multiplayer. This is like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum because I actually think it's quite good. At least as good as it could be. It did what I thought Modern Warfare 2 was going to do. Be fun. The movement is closer to that of Modern Warfare 2019. The gunplay feels much better than both 2019 and Modern Warfare 2. The launch maps, unfortunately, were just the original Modern Warfare 2 maps from 2009. And honestly, they didn't play as great as I wanted them to. Some of the maps that were bad remained bad, like Derail. A lot of the maps that were good remained good. However, the post-launch maps I think are all good. I don't think there was a bad one. However, I do not like the armory unlocks. Even after updating them to where you can get points for every game you win, it just seems stupid to me. At launch, it was much worse, but even still, it just feels like an unneeded change. This game did the carry forward, or whatever it was, so every cosmetic and weapon from Modern Warfare 2 were in this game. I wonder why that is. The perks are back to normal, thankfully, but the thing I love that this game gave us was the aftermarket parts. These are like the operator mods, but much cooler. They completely change the guns, whether it's making a burst pistol into a full auto SMG, turning the RPK, an LMG, into a semi-auto sniper rifle, or making the models from the OG Modern Warfare 2. I hope this returns in another COD game because this feature has so much potential. What the fuck? Honestly, I would rank this multiplayer separately from the rest of the game because the rest of it is so garbage, but the multiplayer specifically, I would rank in B tier. For zombies, you ever played DMZ? It was the new thing during Modern Warfare 2022's life cycle. I don't like DMZ. I found it to be very boring, a mode that I do not care for. That is what zombies in Modern Warfare 3 is. It has a story. I don't care about it. You want to fight harder zombies? Go to the middle of the map. You also have human enemies, and it's buggy just like the rest of the game. I do not like Modern Warfare Zombies. I hope we never see anything like this again. If we separate the multiplayer from the rest of the game, then I will place Modern Warfare 3 in F tier. Why? Because both Zombies and Campaign are some of the worst in this series. At least in my opinion. I know people will disagree. And finally, we're done. I've finally ranked every Call of Duty game, and this journey has been insanely boring. It was. I can't say it wasn't. Here is the overall ranking. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I might read it. And yeah, that's it. You know what? No, that's not the overall ranking. Here, let's rank Black Ops Declassified. F tier, above Modern Warfare 3. There, now we're done. And yes, that's the entire Call of Duty franchise ranked. I hope so, at least. I hope I didn't miss a game again. I've been up too late working on this, and I don't want to go back to work on this any longer. My only closing thoughts on this video is hopefully Black Ops 6 is good. I literally have nothing else to say because I just wasted 3 months playing and ranking every Call of Duty game. That's my life. So hey, let's do it again sometime, but for a good game this time. 100 likes if you want another ranking video, and go run up my last 2 uploads. Subscribe if you're new here, and if you enjoyed the video, good. Now goodbye.